I never thought exhaustion could feel so permanent. Last Tuesday, I sat under the harsh fluorescent lights of my empty classroom, textbooks spread across the desk, prepping for parent-teacher conferences while Liam struggled to finish his math homework at the kitchen table. My son's frustrated sigh echoed in the quiet house, and I wanted to be in two places at once, to soothe him and finish work that would secure my job. I'm a mother first, always. That's what I remind myself every morning when I'm packing lunches, tying shoelaces, and wiping sleepy faces before school. By night, it's homework battles and bedtime stories, my voice soft but steady, even when my body screams for rest. Teaching elementary school isn't just a job. It's a lifeline for me and my kids. But nothing I do seems to matter to Michael. He hasn't paid a dime of the $800 monthly child support he owes in over 6 months. I stretch every penny, choosing between necessities like groceries or school supplies. His mother, Linda, watches from a distance, her eyes sharp and judgmental, her pity for my children like salt rubbed into my wounds. She excludes me from family events and whispers cruel comments that sting worse than any slap. Despite the isolation, I hold on to a secret power, the unbreakable bond I share with Liam and Ava. Their trust is my armor. That morning, I glanced at my phone and froze. A notification from the school office about a custody pickup issue. The boundary between normal life and disaster was thinner than I'd ever known. 2 years ago, the cracks in our family began to widen painfully. I remember the night of the argument, the one that shattered everything. Michael and I were supposed to be partners, but it felt like I was fighting a war alone. Finances were the first battlefield. Promises made to be involved in our children's lives quickly dissolved into neglect. I recall the first custody exchange vividly. Michael arrived an hour late, eyes glued to his phone, barely acknowledging Liam and Ava. His mother, Linda, stood nearby, her cold gaze slicing through me like a knife at every family gathering. I told myself, as long as the kids have their father, it's worth the struggle. But seeing him flaunt weekend getaways on social media while claiming poverty to dodge child support was a bitter pill. One holiday dinner still burns in my memory. Linda's voice, loud enough for me to hear, whispering, "Reagan's just bitter. Can't keep a man or a family." Those words planted seeds of doubt, but they also hardened my resolve. This wasn't just a failed marriage. It was a battlefield where my worth was under siege. The sacrifices I've made are endless and visible in every corner of our lives. I work overtime, juggling a $1,200 mortgage, $400 childcare bills, and extra tutoring for Ava, who struggles with reading. Michael's unpaid $800 monthly support left a hole I fill with skipped vacations, postponed doctor visits, and even turning down a promotion that would take me away from the kids. My sister Emily is my lifeline, my confidant, babysitter, and occasional legal advisor when the weight feels unbearable. I keep meticulous records, bank statements, missed payments, texts from Michael, and screenshots of his lavish social media posts, flaunting dinners and trips he claims he can't afford. Liam and Ava are my motivation, bright, loving kids who carry the invisible burden of a fractured family. Michael remains distant, showing up on weekends but often distracted or exhausted, leaving Linda to orchestrate humiliations. At a recent school event, Linda whispered to other parents that I was struggling to hold it together, casting a shadow over my efforts. Josh Carter, a pragmatic friend from school, offers legal advice and steady support, urging me to stand firm. This circle of struggle and support defines my reality. The first real humiliation hit me like a punch at last month's school fundraiser. I arrived early with Liam and Ava, eager to support their class and distract them from the chaos at home. Halfway through, Linda stormed in with Michael and his new wife, their presence loud and unmistakable. They bragged about a surprise Disney trip they'd taken the kids on last weekend, without telling me. Parents exchanged awkward looks, and Linda's voice cut through the noise. Poor Reagan can barely afford groceries. Lucky we can give the kids some fun. The children's faces fell, caught between my hurt and their grandmother's smugness. I swallowed a lump in my throat, forcing a polite smile while my heart shattered. Later, I told Emily, it wasn't just the trip, it was the message. They think I'm incapable. The sting was deep, but instead of breaking me, it planted a seed of doubt about tolerating this silence. I vowed then, I'll fight for my kids, even if they don't see it yet. The battle was just beginning. After the fundraiser, the subtle war shifted gears, and Michael and Linda's attacks turned sharper, more calculated. Rumors started swirling among the parents at school, whispers that I was an unfit mother, struggling to keep my life together. I could almost hear the judgment beneath the polite smiles, the sideways glances when I dropped Liam off or picked up Ava. Linda had rallied her flying monkeys, distant relatives and other parents who echoed her criticisms like a dark chorus, excluding me from social gatherings and playdates, isolating me further. It wasn't just the cold shoulders. It was the way they whispered behind my back, as if I were invisible, or worse, a problem to be avoided. Michael took to social media, posting a carefully crafted status about a mother too wrapped up in her own struggles to see what's best for the kids. It stung, the publicness of it, the way he painted me as incapable while pretending to be the concerned parent. Custody exchanges became another battlefield. Michael accused me of alienating the children, twisting my efforts to shield Liam and Ava from his neglect into a weapon against me. When I confronted him, his smirk was infuriating. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said, as if I was the one causing the chaos. The gaslighting was relentless. Even Emily felt the pressure. I noticed her pulling back slightly, subtle distancing, as if she were caught in the crossfire and trying not to get hit. Some colleagues, too, hinted I was too distracted, their concern barely masking doubt. The walls were closing in, but I refused to back down. Every late night, I added another entry to my growing file: screenshots, messages, dates, times, knowing that one day, this evidence would speak louder than their lies. For my children, I had to stand firm, even if it meant standing alone. Determined to break the cycle, I agreed to mediation, hoping to find a peaceful way forward. Sitting in that sterile conference room, I laid out everything: the missed child support, the neglect, the emotional toll on Liam and Ava. My voice was steady, but my heart pounded as I pleaded, "Michael, the children need consistency and support." His lawyer cut in with practiced ease, spinning stories of my overbearing behavior and unreasonable demands. The mediator, trying to be neutral, suggested a custody split favoring Michael's weekend visits and reduced support payments, as if that would solve the deeper problems. I left that room hollow, defeated by a system that seemed tilted against me. Outside, I caught Linda whispering to a local reporter, "Reagan is always the problem," a twisted grin on her face. The mediation didn't bring peace. It only fueled their fire. I realized that playing fair in a rigged game was futile, but I clung to hope. Hope that somehow, the truth would come out for the sake of my kids. The next blow came disguised as a public event, but hit me like a gut punch. At a school awards ceremony, I stood proudly beside Ava as she received her reading achievement certificate, her smile wide and genuine. Then Michael and Linda arrived, their presence a storm breaking over me. Linda loudly accused me of using the kids for sympathy, her voice carrying just enough for teachers and parents to hear. She told staff that I was too unstable to be trusted with our children, casting a shadow of doubt that spread quickly. Later, a parent approached me quietly, saying, "You know, your ex's family says you're a bad mother." Ava clung to me, tears brimming in her eyes, and I felt the weight of their cruelty settle deep inside. The fallout wasn't just emotional. The school lost a sponsor for my classroom after Linda's complaints. My reputation, painstakingly built, was under attack. But in the chaos, Josh stepped forward, a steady voice reminding me to fight smarter, to prepare for the legal battle ahead. This wasn't just petty jealousy. It was a calculated assault, and I knew I had to meet it head-on. Desperation pushed me to reach out to Michael one last time, hoping to salvage some semblance of peace for the kids. I sent a simple text. "Can we meet? For the kids' sake, I want to talk about co-parenting and support." He agreed, but showed up unprepared and dismissive, brushing aside my concerns and blaming me for causing drama. I laid it all out, clear and firm. "I need consistent support and respect, or I'll have to take legal action." His smirk was chilling. "Go ahead. You'll lose." That was the line. No cooperation, no compromise. My heart sank, but beneath the exhaustion, a sharp clarity emerged. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about protecting Liam and Ava from a future shaped by neglect and lies. The hopeful mother who sought peace had to become a warrior prepared for battle. There was no turning back now. The fallout from that last meeting hit me harder than I ever imagined possible. Within days, Michael's family unleashed a storm on social media. Posts, comments, and messages warped my words, painting me as unstable, controlling, even reckless. Their narrative spread like wildfire, turning neighbors and parents at school into silent judges. I saw the sideways glances, the whispered conversations, the cold shoulders. Even Emily, my steadfast sister who had been my anchor through so much, started pulling away. I could almost hear the exhaustion in her voice, the strain of carrying my battles alongside her own life. She didn't say it, but the distance she put between us felt like a betrayal. Alone, truly alone, was a weight I hadn't expected to bear so deeply. At school, the whispers grew louder. I'm supposed to be the reliable teacher, the one who nurtures and inspires children every day. But now I was the battler with her ex, the woman drowning in personal drama. The financial strain was crushing. Michael's unpaid $4,800 in child support didn't just pinch, it crippled us. I borrowed money from friends, promising to pay it back soon, though I wasn't sure how. The walls of my world seemed to close in tighter with every passing day. Nights were the worst. After tucking Liam and Ava into bed, I sat in the dark, the silence pressing on me, crushing the last bits of energy I had left. Doubt crept in like a shadow I couldn't shake. Was I losing this fight? Was my tireless effort only pushing my children further into a world shaped by neglect and lies? The loneliness was suffocating, yet beneath the exhaustion and despair, a small flame flickered stubbornly. I refused to let their childhoods be scripted by a man who cared more about appearances than his own kids. No matter how deep the pit, I wouldn't let this be the end. Even on my worst nights, I held on to that sliver of purpose. It was the only thing worth fighting for. Then came the day everything changed. I was in the middle of teaching when the school office called. The words hit me like a blow. Your children were picked up, but you did not authorize anyone. My heart slammed against my ribs as panic flooded through me. Linda Peterson, Michael's mother, had taken Liam and Ava to Disney World without my consent, without any legal right, without even a call to warn me. The world narrowed to the frantic rush of calls, the pounding in my head as I begged the police to find them. 4 endless hours stretched out, filled with desperate calls to friends, family, anyone who could help. The news caught wind, and the school filed an Amber Alert. I sat in the police station, hands trembling as the officers arrested Linda on charges of custodial interference, witnesses confirming my terror, and the unauthorized pickup. The humiliation was unbearable. Flashing cameras, reporters shouting questions I couldn't answer. But beneath the fear, something inside me hardened. This wasn't just a family spat anymore. It was a violation of my rights as a mother, an attack on my children's safety. I realized I could no longer be the passive victim in this story. The moment I had dreaded, the moment I had feared, had arrived. From that breaking point, the exhausted woman who had spent years bearing the weight alone started to transform. I wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. I was fighting to protect my children with everything I had. In the heavy quiet that followed the Amber Alert, I finally found a moment to breathe, to let the shock fade just enough for clarity to settle. All the years of sacrifice, the unpaid bills, the whispered judgments, the battles fought in courts and playgrounds, everything came rushing back. Anger surged through me, sharp and fiery, fueled by Linda's smug face and Michael's cold indifference. I thought about the countless nights I soothed scraped knees and wiped tears during homework battles, the invisible labor that no one acknowledged. For so long I had been fighting alone, a lone warrior against a coordinated assault designed to break me down. But something had shifted. The despair didn't swallow me whole this time. Instead, it transformed into something fierce and unyielding. "I won't let them win," I whispered in the quiet of the night, my voice steady with newfound resolve. "Not now. Not ever." The pain, the humiliation, the loneliness, they became fuel for the fight ahead. I was done being invisible, done being underestimated. My children deserved more than the scraps left by a man who refused responsibility. The emotional awakening was complete. I was ready, not just to endure, but to fight back with every ounce of strength I had left. That night, I met Josh Carter in the dim light of my kitchen, the weight of everything pressing down on me. "I can't keep doing this alone," I confessed, voice barely above a whisper. Josh's steady gaze didn't waver. "You don't have to. You've got the proof, the support, and most important, your kids' trust. It's time to make this official." Together, we laid out a plan, turning years of pain and evidence into strategy. The Amber Alert wasn't just a terrifying moment. It was the turning point we'd been waiting for. I would file for formal custody and child support hearings, ready to expose Michael's neglect and lies once and for all. Josh reminded me, "This fight isn't just about money. It's about the future your children deserve." I felt a surge of strength as I spoke my intention aloud, no longer willing to hide or back down. Papers were gathered, incidents recorded, and emotions steeled for the courtroom battles looming ahead. The decision to act was a line drawn in the sand. No more passive endurance, no more silent suffering. This was the moment I stepped out of the shadows and into the fight, armed with everything I needed to protect my family's future. Josh and I spent hours hunched over my kitchen table, its surface buried beneath printouts and scribbled notes, trying to untangle the threads of Michael's carefully constructed illusion. He flaunted a lifestyle online that screamed luxury, weekend getaways, flashy dinners, new gadgets. Yet in court, he played the struggling dad, barely scraping by. The contradiction was glaring once we connected the dots. His new job, one he had conveniently forgotten to mention during hearings, was the key to his facade. Josh helped me dig deeper, tracking pay stubs and social media posts that painted a picture of deceit. Then there was Vanessa, Michael's new wife, whose coldness toward Liam and Ava wasn't just hearsay anymore. Reports from neighbors and even a school counselor confirmed her neglectful behavior, her dismissive attitude toward the kids after visits. The most powerful weapon, though, was the bond I shared with my children, a fortress Michael's lies could never breach. I arranged confidential interviews with their teachers and pediatrician, gathering quiet testimonies that spoke volumes about the children's emotional turmoil and physical well-being. The stack of evidence grew. Nearly $10,000 in missed payments, documented instances of Michael's failure to show up on time or at all for custody exchanges, and heartbreaking reports of Liam's anxiety and Ava's withdrawal after their weekends away. I felt a shift inside me, a surge of something fierce and steady. For the first time, I saw the battlefield clearly, and I wasn't just the mother fighting alone. I was the strategist, holding the truth in my hands, ready to expose the cracks in Michael's polished lies. Behind my calm exterior, the storm of preparation raged on. I kept my voice steady at school, keeping the whispers at bay, but every spare moment was swallowed by organizing the mountain of paperwork. Each receipt, text message, and missed payment was cataloged meticulously, stacked in folders labeled by date and detail. My journal became a lifeline, its pages filled with daily accounts of custody exchanges gone wrong, of the children's subtle signs of distress, and the quiet moments where I reassured them they were safe and loved. I changed passwords on every shared account, email, school portals, even the family calendar, to cut off Michael's access and manipulation. I coached Liam and Ava carefully, teaching them how to speak honestly about their feelings without fear, reminding them that their voices mattered, but safety came first. At work, I held tight to professionalism, refusing to let the chaos bleed into my classroom, even when exhaustion weighed heavy behind my eyes. The tension between what I was building behind closed doors and the facade I wore in public was exhausting, but necessary. Michael and Linda had no idea how much I had pulled together, how prepared I was becoming. I felt the quiet pulse of anticipation, waiting for the moment when all the pieces would come together, when the silence would break and the truth would finally be heard. The stage was set, steady, unyielding, and I was ready to take my first real stand. The The counselor's office was dim and quiet, a small sanctuary where Liam and Ava spoke truths that had long been hidden in shadows. Liam's voice shook, but his words cut through the tension like a blade. "Dad's new wife yells a lot," he said softly, eyes fixed on the floor. "She doesn't listen when I'm scared." Ava's small face tightened as she added, "Sometimes they forget to feed us, and Dad's always busy on his phone." The counselor's gentle questions coaxed more out of them. The neglect, the emotional coldness, the lies Michael and Vanessa told about me, painting me as the villain in their world. The children spoke of confusion, of being caught in a storm they didn't understand, forced into silence by fear and loyalty. My heart shattered and swelled all at once, pride mingling with pain. This was the truth I had been searching for, the real story buried beneath layers of Michael's manipulation. The counselor agreed to document the session, the children's voices now formal testament to the neglect and cruelty they endured. Michael's carefully crafted image crumbled with every word the kids bravely shared, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. The weight of this revelation pressed on me, urgent and undeniable. It was the weapon I had longed for, the twist that could tip the scales in my favor. The fight was no longer just about proving neglect. It was about giving my children the justice and safety they deserved. With this new evidence in hand, I felt a cold fire ignite inside me as Josh and I moved swiftly. The first legal motions were drafted, demanding to suspend Michael's unsupervised visitation immediately and seeking back child support well beyond what I had initially calculated. $15,000, including penalties for his continual disregard. My lawyer served the papers with a quiet finality, and the school was formally notified about unauthorized pickups, ensuring no more surprises. We collected screenshots of Michael's social media, each post a glaring contradiction to his claims of financial hardship, and submitted them to the court. His response was confusion mixed with a lazy disbelief, as if he couldn't fathom the consequences of my actions. But the small ripples began almost immediately. Court fees hit his credit, supervised visits replaced free reign, and his weekend plans began to unravel. Meanwhile, Liam and Ava sensed the shift. Their relief was palpable, a lightening of the burden I had carried silently for so long. This was only the first phase, a measured, calculated move in a game I was determined to win. Michael didn't see it yet, but the game had changed. I was no longer the exhausted mother battered by circumstance. I was the warrior mother taking back what was rightfully mine, and the fight had just begun. The courtroom felt colder than I expected, sterile lights casting long shadows across the polished wood as I stepped up to speak. Michael sat across from me, arms crossed, his lawyer flitting through papers, eyes wary but trying not to show it. Judge Helen Martinez looked at me expectantly, an impartial guardian of justice weighing the truth I was about to lay bare. I held my breath and began. "Your Honor, my children's safety and stability have been jeopardized by years of neglect and manipulation," I said, voice steady despite the storm inside me. I laid out the evidence, painstakingly gathered payment histories showing his long stretches without a dime of support, the social media posts revealing the lifestyle he hid, and most powerful of all, the counselor's report containing Liam and Ava's recorded statements. Their small voices, brave and honest, played quietly in the room, raw with pain and hope. I watched Michael's face crumple as the judge leaned in, reading through the documents I presented. Linda Peterson sat rigid beside him, her usual smugness replaced by a flicker of unease. Then came the witnesses, teachers confirming the children's emotional distress, pediatricians detailing their anxiety and sadness. The courtroom shifted, my years of silent suffering transformed into a narrative no one could ignore. Judge Martinez's voice rang clear as she ruled for increased child support payments, $200 monthly plus all arrears, and ordered supervised visitation with strict limits. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I locked gaze with Michael, speaking with fierce clarity. "From now on, I'm not just fighting for money. I'm fighting for our children's future, and I will not be ignored." The room filled with quiet affirmation, my calculated revenge reaching its apex. The moment I had fought for, my silent power finally made visible. The verdict shattered the fragile world Michael had built on lies. Word spread quickly among friends and colleagues. his neglect and dishonesty exposed for all to see. Suddenly, the man who had flaunted wealth and ease was unraveling, his reputation crumbling under the weight of truth. Michael's phone buzzed relentlessly with frantic calls and texts, empty apologies, promises to change, desperate attempts to claw back respect. Linda sprang into action, sending carefully crafted messages to mutual acquaintances, painting me as vindictive and unreasonable. But I stood firm, refusing to engage except through legal channels. The family's carefully maintained image shattered like glass. His workplace buzzed with whispers, and even Vanessa, his new wife, began to distance herself as rumors of neglect and court rulings reached her ears. The children's welfare took center stage. Unmonitored weekends were replaced by visits under watchful eyes, their safety no longer negotiable. In the midst of this upheaval, my bond with Emily strengthened, her steady presence a balm amid the chaos. Financially isolated and socially exposed, Michael's desperate attempts to regain control faltered. My proportional revenge had dismantled their false narratives, clearing a path toward healing and honest co-parenting, and I could finally see a glimmer of light beyond the storm. Michael's last-ditch efforts felt like a desperate, clumsy assault against a fortress that would not fall. He enlisted friends and family as flying monkeys, relentless social media attacks, veiled threats of legal appeals, and cynical rumors meant to unsettle me. Linda's campaign painted me as unstable, selfish, even mentally unwell, spreading poison through whispered conversations and online barbs. But I was ready. Every interaction was documented, every message saved and reported to the authorities. Josh and Emily stood by my side, their calm strength reminding me I was not alone. I refused to stoop to their level or let their petty battles distract me from what mattered most: my children's well-being and the firm legal footing I had earned. Michael's isolation deepened as his support network frayed, his credibility crumbling further with every fruitless attempt to intimidate or manipulate. The final manipulations crashed against my unyielding resolve, signaling the collapse of his control. I stood unbroken, not because I sought vengeance, but because justice had been served. The children's truth was my shield and sword, and with it, I had reclaimed not just custody or money, but my dignity and our future. Months later, I sat in the quiet warmth of my sunlit kitchen, the morning light soft against the worn wood table. Ava sat beside me, her voice bright as she read aloud, while Liam practiced piano in the next room, the melody steady and hopeful. Our house was quieter now, steadier, a sanctuary we had fought hard to reclaim. The child support payments arrived on time, a tangible sign of accountability, and supervised visits had slowly evolved into trust-building moments, small steps toward healing. Emily and Josh had become more than just allies. They were family, a chosen circle of strength and love. The judgmental whispers from Michael's side had faded into the background, replaced by genuine respect from neighbors, friends, and the school community I served every day. Judge Martinez's words echoed in my mind, her commendation of my dedication a quiet victory after years of struggle. Michael's presence in our lives was limited but honest now, no longer a figure of neglect and lies, but a father held to account. I reflected quietly, the weight of years lifting as I whispered to myself, it wasn't easy. The battle bruised us all, but in the end, my children saw the truth. They chose me. My revenge had never been about money or orders. It was about emotional justice, about giving my children a future built on love and truth. Scars remained, yes, but so did hope. I smiled softly, knowing this was not just an ending. It was a new beginning, a life reclaimed by a mother who refused to be broken.